Every day in the USA, people find themselves in court. But this is the old Vietnam veteran who we had in court back in July. The judge was really kind of set aside by a lot of the facts. This gentleman has either Alzheimer's or dementia, something that affects his memory. He's got a really loving wife who appeared there in court with him. It's really a tearjerker. I threw in a healthy recap on this just so everybody could get what really went down during that first hearing. That really becomes important during the hearing that we had on Halloween Day. Let's watch this video together.
Court does call the case of the people of the state of Michigan versus Jeffrey Pence.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. On behalf of Mr. Pence, who appears in custody to my right. How are you, Judge?
Oh, good.
Yeah, thank you, and good afternoon, Your Honor, and thank you for allowing me to appear via Zoom. Jonathan Evans on behalf of the people in this matter.
All right. This matter originally came up as it was filed by the public defender initially, an emergency motion to release or change the bond. In this case, there was then, I don't know if Mr. Margolis filed one or not, but maybe not. But then a stipulation in order to amend bond came over. The court has not signed that. All of this relates to a conditional bond violation, which occurred on June 29th, I do believe at 8:35, or I'm sorry, 18:35, in the city of Ann Arbor regarding contact and other things. So I don't know who wants to begin in terms of the stipulation, because the court had some questions regarding the stipulation specifically. Are these townhouses, or how are the houses right next to each other?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that
single family homes?
got it? And fundamentally, I guess the court's thing, because while I received the stipulation, I don't have much documentation to go along with that, which I had initially requested, I think, of the public defender. And then when you came in, Ms. Margolis.
I apologize. I was not aware. I have a neuropsych report, and I also have letters from the VA as well as Michigan Medicine relative to his cognitive disorders.
I'm not in terms of Mr. Penn's cognitive state. That is not an issue for the court. More an issue for the court is making sure that he can be released safely, number one, and where I don't want to set him up for further, I guess, difficulties where something happens and then he's had enough of a problem being arrested, brought in. I don't want to see that happen again. And so it's not an issue of questioning necessarily anybody's commitment to what's contained here. It's more satisfying myself that there's enough in place to stop that from occurring, because I think that probably causes much more of a stressor on Mr. Pence than anything else when this type of circumstance occurs. Most of my questions, well, one of the primary questions, I'll just say, from the police report I referenced was whether or not there are firearms in the home. And I think that has been answered by the affidavit of his wife.
There's no firearms. No.
No firearms at all.
No firearms at all. All right.
Never had firearms.
Got it. Okay. Um, the daily care, I won't say care, but there's references in here that he'll be supervised around the clock. And I guess I need to be clear on how that's going to occur and what pieces are in place to make sure that happens.
Understood. So our initial, first I'll let the court know that we being the family, they're on a wait list. He is on a wait list for Brecken Village Memory Care Center.
Got it.
He is also a veteran. He's a Vietnam veteran, and I bring that up because he has resources through the VA. If we are able to obtain his release, the first person we're going to go see is we're going to take him right to the VA hospital. Is that correct?
That is correct.
VA hospital emergency to have him checked to see if he needs to be admitted. He has an appointment with his primary. He had one yesterday, but that was
Is
reset.
this Miss Sanchez Pence?
Yes.
Ma'am, I didn't mean to be you can come up to the podium.
Please.
You're
Sorry
the one,
about
you're the one that,
It's more
Yes.
important to hear from.
yeah. And can you state your name, please, ma'am?
My legal name is Juana Sanchez Pence.
All right. All right.
We also, so while we wait to hear, and she can let us know what the time frame is for Brecken Village. But we also have we have time respite care with the VA that's been approved for a certain number of hours per week. That I believe is going to be increased based upon our conversations with the
When
VA,
you're
and
saying respite care, you mean around the clock in-home care?
not necessarily from the VA. I wanted to be clear. I want to not give the court any false representations. We also have, because it's not 24-hour care from the VA respite people, we also have enlisted social workers as well as certain private caretakers.
Okay. I was getting to the point of this involving a neighbor. And that, and I don't know if you're aware of this. Part of the reason I was concerned about a firearm is because allegedly there was a threat that he was going to get a gun and shoot,
Who?
that Mr. Pence was. Okay. I tell you that because I'm not asking these questions, or my concern doesn't sort of just come out of a vacuum.
I was not aware of that. Yes.
Yeah, okay. And so that's one of the reasons, for example, given his circumstances, I've been kind of deliberate in trying to act because I didn't know if there were firearms. I don't, and I'm trying to place where the houses are to each other. Both for the safety of the neighbor, but also for the safety of Mr. Pence, because I didn't want a circumstance where he's there, somehow is unsupervised, then the neighbor comes over, figures nobody's doing anything, and does something to him. So just so that you know, I'm sorry, ma'am, I did not know that you weren't aware that had been said and represented, and that's one of the reasons why it's kind of where it is now. Okay, you also may not have been aware, maybe again you were or not, that I guess he was over banging on the windows of the neighbors.
I was.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry that you're finding out this way. He was over banging on the windows, screaming at the neighbors. The neighbors, as I am gathering from the report, were screaming back. Mr. Pence allegedly responds that he's gonna, I think, end up shooting them up or something along those lines. Okay, and that's how we got there. Once, to be honest with you, for me, once initially upon reading that, I was very concerned. Once upon getting sort of preliminary information regarding Mr. Penn's conditions, both from the jail and from the public defender's office, my view of everything kind of changed. But I wanted to make sure that I was taking the proper steps and the proper things that were in place for the reasons I told you before, for his safety as well as the neighbor's safety. Let me ask you this, Ms. Spence. Is the neighbor aware of Mr. Penn's circumstances, or?
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. And I would continuously apologize when I heard my husband yelling at him due to noise. He's extremely sensitive to noise.
To noise.
My
Okay,
husband is.
got
And
it.
he would yell at him, "Where you have that so noisy?" And he knows, all my neighbors know, all my nearby neighbors know. And so he knows, and I would apologize. I'm sorry, his situation, the noise upsets him, and this is what he does. And I would apologize to the neighbor continuously.
And some of them, I'm sure, as our world, are more accepting than others, right? Okay, all right. So you said he was on a waiting list.
We are on a waiting list to move. We have to move. We're on a waiting list to move
You're gonna,
out of our home. We have no choice. Unfortunately, we have no choice. So we're moving, but we're on a waiting list. And so in the meantime, he's not going to go in that driveway.
and let me ask you this. You have no choice because of what?
Because I don't want him to get into another altercation. I just don't want him to get into another altercation with a neighbor. And that's the reason. Every old person wants to age in their home, but that's not going to happen. I have to move him because I don't want him to get into trouble again for something that he does due to his illness.
How long have you been in your home?
I'm
How
sorry.
long have you and him been in your home?
Oh my goodness. Let me think back here. 87, 86, mid 80s, maybe 87, 85. Oh, 85. He retained numbers. I don't.
Good memory, sir.
Amazing.
Good
Oh
memory.
my goodness.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
How long have the two of you been married?
I'm sorry.
How long have the two of you been married?
We were together for 7 years and we got legally married in 1988.
So a while.
A while, yes. We've had ups and downs.
As with all marriages, right? Just trying to think of a way to put this without you looking like a bad guy or me looking like, I don't, but I just need to know this information. If he goes home and he's at home, this one neighbor, what's your best guess as to their response? And here's the reason I'm asking. I'm not trying to say anybody's a bad person for that. I don't want him provoked to where he then responds. Did that make any sense?
I totally understand. The area where my husband can see the neighbor is only in the driveway area. We're going to stay away from the driveway area. In the backyard, there's a tall fence. They cannot see us. We cannot see them.
I did have an opportunity to speak to the neighbor and the victim of both of these matters in anticipation of the stipulation. And I kind of tried to assess him out and where he's at, and with the understanding of what we could do to try and facilitate him coming back home until such a time that he could go to Brecken, whatever the facility is. And he said that the driveway seems to be the biggest thing. He was like, can you just keep him in the home? And I said, well, there might be, obviously he's going to have to leave the home for appointments and stuff, and he goes, the driveway seems to be like the biggest catalyst. That seems to be the thing where where
Yeah,
the
but-
issues tend to arise the most often. And he said if he, and I'm sorry, I'm kind of forgetting. He said if he, like, I was like, well, what if he wanted to go for a walk with a caregiver or something? I, just kind of thinking, I guess if you were to go out the front door and go, I can't remember if it was left or right. But there was one way that he could go and he would not have any contact, would not have to cross in front of the neighbor's house. So as long as he stayed, that direction and stayed out of the driveway, he didn't foresee that there would be any problems. I mean, obviously, I think the complainant in this matter is going to be concerned no matter what, but I talked to him about that, and I wanted to make sure that he was, understanding and as comfortable as he could be. And I think this is what he's the one that said, the driveway needs to be addressed.
But I've got some problems with that. And that is, and I these are separate driveways. So it's not like it's a shared driveway. So I guess I'm trying to figure out, and Mr. Emmons, maybe you can clarify it for me. Is it, I mean, if I release Mr. Pence, what I'm concerned about is I'm not looking to restrict his use of his property because I,
She had a comment.
you're right, Go, because see, I'll try not to say what I'm really thinking, but what I'm really thinking is this. There are people that have difficulties on our planet and in our society. It doesn't mean that we get to just hide them. And if we don't see them, then feel better. We just don't get to do that. I mean,
I don't disagree with the court at all.
and you know what? And I know you're not down here, Mr. Emmons, but I'm just going to say this also. I see Miss Sanchez Pens up here, and as she walked up, I'm looking at the two of them look at each other. It seems to me, and this is a feeling, I might be wrong, she just loves him more than life itself and is willing to do anything. But I'm not going to place her in a position because I know she, just based upon the conversation, feels that she should be the one responsible for it. And I get that. But Mr. Pence, if he wants to walk on his driveway and say nothing to anybody, why can't he say that? Why can't he do that? The way I read this stipulation, maybe that's my problem, is that he, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I read this stipulation is Mr. and Mrs. Pence can't be in the driveway at all.
So that was an added part after I spoke with Mr. Emmons. And it said they can transport as long as they can go to and from.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't actually have it right.
So here's my problem with that. My problem with that is, how long was he in the service?
Sweetheart, how long were you in the army?
How long?
He said 15 or 16 years. No,
Wasn't quite
no,
that.
no.
Okay.
Hours, actually. You were in Vietnam, yes? George, you did one or two?
It doesn't matter.
Sorry.
He's a vet. It's okay. He's a veteran. My point to all of that is,
Your Honor.
I am not going to stop somebody that fought for this country from being able to walk up and down his driveway with his wife. I asked that order is not happening. Now, if I have to place an order that he can't yell at the neighbor, that he can't do this, then fine, that's fine. But I mean, right now I'm mad that they're gonna have to move out of their home. I mean, I get it, and I get people have to make their life's decisions, but you're making the decision because others can't seem to understand him, and the very fact that they have the right to file the complaint is because of people like him that went and preserved your right to be able to do it. Something, maybe I'll step off my soapbox, but I'm just, if what he thinks, and whether it be right, wrong, or indifferent, that he wants to take, let's say it's just a romantic stroll holding hands with his wife down the driveway, well, darn it, he's gonna be able to do it. I'm not gonna place you in a position where you're sitting there worried that if you're not exiting right at that moment, somebody decides, that's not gonna happen. If he goes out and sits on a lawn chair in the middle of the driveway and does nothing, I don't care if anybody doesn't want to see him. If he's not doing anything to anybody, it doesn't matter to me. You follow me? I just have a very different approach to that. And I don't want to see you or the people that you would have come in trying to care for him in that position that if he wants to go out for a driveway and all of a sudden he decides he's not going to listen and he's just walking down his own driveway, that's not going to be a bond violation. It's not going to happen. Now, I don't know, Mr. Emmons, are you going to feel comfortable? I mean, quite frankly, I can just order it, so it doesn't really matter, but I'd rather it be a circumstance where the neighbor could understand that I'm not ordering that. I will order him to stay off of his driveway,
Of course.
but I'm not ordering him to stay off his own driveway.
Your
I
Honor.
think that the issue that we were trying to address, Your Honor, is that it seems that if the defendant becomes aware of the presence of the complainant, it almost acts as if some kind of an irresistible impulse. I can't say that I know Mr. Pence or Mr. Latotsky, the complainant in this matter. I don't know their entire situation. I happen to be the one that got the police report for the newest incident while I was on duty for the 4th of July. And so I'm the one that charged it. That brings me here. In speaking with Mr. Latotsky, that's the situation.
So is there another case?
There's a case out of there's a misdemeanor case for the door window that happened on the 29th of June.
In Ann Arbor.
Yes.
Same
Yeah.
place. Yeah.
Okay.
So, that's what the idea of the driveway was, is to try and prevent that, I'm just using the terminology, but that kind of irresistible impulse so that, the victim doesn't feel like he needs to be confined to his home and there's not some kind of, issue that's going to arise. It's kind of to try and put a plug in that.
I mean, like I said, the driveway thing is out. I get everything else that's being said. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to sign this step, but I'll need an order, gentlemen, that I don't mind any part of the order except really what is the last paragraph.
It was added at the 11th hour, Judge.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to blame.
Let's go back to hour 10 and take it out.
Okay.
Not doing it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce his bond after a hearing to a $5,000 personal recognizance bond. So I'm going to release him to you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to release him on a PR. I'm going to indicate that he's to be released to his wife. All right, only. Okay, so you're the only one that can come get him. You would be anyway, but you're the only one that can come get him. I've got this case. We'll get through this, man. Okay? And we'll do our best just to try not to make the punitive side of our criminal justice system. It doesn't need to be. That's not what this is about, as far as I'm concerned in this case. This is about just trying to get to something that's right for everybody, but certainly right for Mr. Pence, and see what we can do. Okay? Maybe, not that I'm interfering in any other case, but maybe if people want to let them pay for the window and the other thing, they can let that part of the criminal case go. I don't know what punishing with another case does, but I'm sorry, I probably shouldn't have said that out loud, but I feel it.
It's your courtroom, Your Honor.
Absolutely. What I want to say. Court does call the case of the people versus Jeffrey Pence.
National Law for the people.
Thank you, Judge Lawrence Margolis, on behalf of Jeffrey Pence and his caretaker wife. May she approach as well?
Yes. You want to?
For Mrs. Pence, please state your name for the court.
Jeffrey Pence.
All right.
Juana Sanchez Pence.
Hello.
Afternoon, Your Honor. Today's date and time set for an adjourned PCC. We had held this pending a competency evaluation, which was received yesterday. I don't know if the court had an opportunity to review it yet. Since receiving that, I have also received notice that there was a bond violation notice filed in this case, and I had also filed a motion to withdraw from the matter, but that may or may not be necessary depending on what happens today and what we do from here. And if Your Honor would like us to approach on this, I'm happy to.
Hang on.
You read the competency?
All right. I see the opinion of the. All right. So which one of these did you want to try to take first? Well, I think we have to deal with the competency issue first, quite frankly.
Yes, Your Honor. At that point, the people have received the order from the, or excuse me, the evaluation and report from the Center for Forensic Psychiatry. We have no additional evidence. We would stipulate to its submission.
Given that he's not competent to proceed, I was
With an unlikelihood that he would be restored.
correct. I was hoping that the people would be inclined to agree to dismiss the cases.
Well,
We do a couple of things in our office, Your Honor. So we would be requesting that to happen. Sounds to me like defense counsel is also stipulating that report based on the representation that.
Of course.
The defense is not competent as well.
We will
Right.
judge.
The court would find that the defendant is at this time not competent to stand trial and unlikely to gain competency within the statutory period. And upon presentation of an order to that effect, Mr. Margolis signed that order. I will set a competency review hearing. Well, set it to statutory time. Give me 90 days on.
January 30th.
Set one January 30th, 2024, 25, excuse me, at 9 a.m. All right.
I just spoke with Mrs. Pence, and she has advised that she would like me to advise the court that I want to withdraw my motion to withdraw from this case. Bless you.
I'm glad, because otherwise I was going to deny it in any event.
Understood.
So,
No objection, no problem.
all right. Okay, so the other problem I think that we have then is the bond violation. I don't know if anybody wants to say anything about that to me. I mean,
If the people, I defer to Ms. Lundy
Well,
initially.
here's well, I'm gonna let you guys say what you want to say, then I'm gonna say what I gotta say.
No, I leave it in the court's discretion. The court is very familiar with the case, and
Well, I guess one question I do have is out of that, is there going to be additional charges? And I know that's maybe an unfair question to ask, but part of my reason for asking that is not the hearing before, but the very first hearing. There were people trying to tell Mr. Pence that he couldn't do certain things and wanted this court's backing in saying that. I won't go through my words exactly, but I think I made it very clear that this gentleman is in part, I get to do what I get to do because he did what he did, and he's a veteran. And if he wants to sit in the middle of his driveway and I think he can middle of his driveway and do it. That's just my feeling. And I think I made that clear. Here's what troubles me with this bond violation. The subject matter of, I think, this case, at some point, one of the cases, was some flowers or foliage at the end of a driveway. And that led to charges. Now, I'm not going to speak on that, but also what was real clear to me was that there was an issue regarding the driveway. And Mr. Pence being in his driveway. He's not trespassing, he's just in his driveway. When I look at the report, I don't want to say anything that influences what the people do with this case. They've got the report. You guys will do what you're going to do. But I don't know why, knowing that for whatever reason, the driveway is important to Mr. Pence. That, and it doesn't matter what the reason is, it just is. That one would then take and try to place him in a position where he does something by putting something right next to that driveway. It makes no sense. And quite frankly, to then do that, and once he does what, quite frankly, one might suspect he would do, to then call the police and try to file charges against a man in his it's just cruel. It's just cruel. And I am not going to be a part of any of that cruelty. I am not going to find that this is a violation of anything. that this court has ordered him to do or not do. He is, if I could say that of his own volition and his own free will, that he was failing to follow this court's orders, then certainly anybody that knows me knows I would hold him accountable for that. But he is not intending to violate any order of this court, should not show his neighbors or me any disrespect. And I'm going to show him the respect he deserves, and I'm going to find that there's no violation in that report. So the court will not find that there's a violation.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Our new date is January 30th, 2025.
Yes, and his bond will continue.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I'll have an order for the court. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Hold on.
Okay. You know, people in that situation, they can become dangerous. There's a whole conversation to be had around that. I agree with the judge when he says that you don't just file people like that away and hide them away from society. And I don't think that's what the purpose of dementia wards or institutions like that are. Those aren't just the filing away of our sick elderly, because the loved ones for those people don't just forget about them, they visit them there.